What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be breaking down our favorite picks in every round for this 2022 fantasy football season. Basically, these are the guys that we are targeting the most in every single round because they have the highest upside in our 2022 fantasy draft. So definitely make sure to tune in. If you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? What other names would you include on this best value players round by round? Along with any other questions you guys might have, we will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you could want at a great value, top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats, individual player bios, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. All the details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into it. And a quick comment. This is going to be based on PPR scoring, so keep that in mind. And obviously, there's going to be some discrepancies here depending on the platform that you use, depending on the size of your league settings. But we're talking typical, league scoring, no crazy bonuses, typical roster sizes. And as you can see, we're going to be using the consensus ADPs here per Fantasy Pros. So without further ado, let's kick it off. And we're going to be starting off in the first round. And don't worry, we're not just going to see Jonathan Taylor or something like that. No, we're going to actually scroll down a little bit here to a guy that per the ADPs, he's actually considered a second round selection in Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints. But here's the reason for it. I still think that a lot of platforms haven't necessarily updated Kamara's ranking because the expectation now is that he will not be suspended at all this season due to his Pro Bowl incident, which means if he plays an entire season, the guy still has right on the door of a top 5 PPR running back season, and he belongs in the top 12 players. He should definitely be above Nick Chubb in PPR scoring. I think you can make the case that he should be above guys like a Joe Mixon, guys like a DeAndre Swift potentially are right on board with that. So that's going to sooner or later catch up to it. He's a big name, and he's going to be propelled into the first round, in my opinion. I'd be okay taking him right around 5th overall, 6th overall. As long as Jameis Winston is the quarterback, Alvin Kamara can get it done. He can be what we've seen from him before, and that is a league-winning running back. So again, right now, even though the ADP might say otherwise and that he's a second-round selection, don't get me wrong, if you can get that discount, absolutely get it. Alvin Kamara in the second round is an absolute smash, but I do think he will be propelled into that first round come early September. So just starting it off with Kamara here as a name to know. But let's go to the second round here. We're not going to scroll too far, and we're actually going to highlight 2 names. We're going to highlight one, Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers, a guy that I've said on numerous occasions I'd be okay taking in the first round. And again, this all boils down to the fact that Davante Adams is no longer in Green Bay, which means the targets are going to be plentiful for Aaron Jones. I still think he controls the backfield in terms of rushing opportunities as well. Even if it is like a 60-40 split between him and A.J. Dillon, I think Aaron Jones is going to have massive, massive upside as a pass catcher, to the point where it wouldn't shock me if he leads the Green Bay Packers in receptions, maybe even in receiving yards, as crazy as that sounds. Look, it's simple. Aaron Rodgers likes to go to guys that he trusts. Aaron Jones has been in that system for a long time. The Packers paid him, and Aaron Rodgers trusts him. So I think Aaron Jones is going to be heavily utilized, and especially in PPR formats. Again, he's ranked 19th overall. That is going to translate to a second-round selection. I'd be okay taking him in the first. He's usually going in the middle of the second round. To me, another great, great value pick. And now actually going to number 24 overall here, Saquon Barkley, another second-round name that we really, really like. Per these rankings, he's right at the end of the second round, depending on the size of your leagues, and actually under Aaron Jones. But, in the live drafts that we've done, typically Barkley is going to be selected ahead of Aaron Jones or right next to him. And I do think he's going to be another guy similar to an Alvin Kamara that because of the big name appeal, he's going to be boosted up, boards. A couple of months ago, 2-3 months ago, Barkley was going in the third round. But that's not the case anymore. He's worked his way up to an early second round selection. Sometimes I've even seen him go in the first round. I don't think it's all that crazy. I think he's a top 12 running back. And it's a situation where, you know, the Giants' offensive line is going to be much, much better. It's going to be another year removed from his ACL injury. If you believe the reports that he's going to get a much larger workload, then that's also a benefit for him. He's also a very versatile running back, probably going to be the focal point for the Giants offense. So for all those reasons, I think he's a guy that is a great target in the second rounds. Now, moving on to the third round, we've got another, if you will, all reliable name, maybe a name of a couple years ago, Ezekiel Elliott. And I feel like I'm almost insulting Ezekiel Elliott by saying that, because the guy, all he does is put together top 10 running back seasons, which is why I think it's absolutely insane that he's going in the third round. Like, the fact that he's going close to David Montgomery is absolutely bananas to me. Zeke, the reason why, he maybe didn't play up to expectations last year is he got hurt early in the season. Not a lot of people knew about it. He played through it for the majority of the year. That's why Tony Pollard got the work that he did. Zeke is now healthy by everyone's account, his account, coaching staff, and Tony Pollard isn't the primary running back here. The Cowboys have said that Zeke is the focal point for their offense. I anticipate Zeke is going to be one of the biggest steals in fantasy football drafts in the third round. I am absolutely all in on him. I draft him in the second round, but you can typically get him in the early to mid third round, again, depending on the size of your leagues. I think he's going to be, again, a top 10 running back and potentially one of the biggest steals at the running back position. Now, moving on to the fourth round, let's go to a guy here in Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He comes in at the number 46th overall spot. So, end of the fourth round, something like that. He's going to be going higher than this. Trust me, folks, he's another guy that his ADP has been absolutely soaring. And I think when it's all said and done, he could be closer to an end of the third round selection. I'd be okay with that, because the thing is, okay, we've seen those videos of James Robinson like running in a straight line without any defenders in practice. Okay, who cares? He's coming off an Achilles injury, a late season Achilles injury. We saw what that meant for a guy like Cam Akers last year. And simply put, James Robinson, if he somehow rehabs and is available for the start of the season, I don't think he's actually going to be his normal self until at least the midpoint or late in the season. Etienne is set up for a great start to the 2022 year. I think worst case scenario, he's a high-end RB2. In PPR formats, I really like his floor and his upside, his ceiling, because of what he can do as a pass catcher. I think this Jacksonville team is going to be much improved. I wouldn't be shocked if, Etienne flat out leads the Jaguars in rushing and is like top 2, top 3 in receiving as well on that team. So Etienne is a guy that I am very excited for this season. Long term, we'll see what happens with James Robinson, but for short term, I do really like Travis Etienne for 2022. Now let's move on to the fifth round here and shift focus finally to the wide receiver position. Marquise Brown here comes in at the 65th overall spot, so a little bit later, per these rankings than the fifth round, if that projects to like the 60th overall player, but still, he goes in the fifth round a lot of times, and that's kind of what I'm basing it off of. Marquise Brown is a guy that, once the Cardinals traded for him, they traded a first-round pick for him, obviously showing that they believe in him and that, they think he can be a wide receiver one. And especially, I think this is highlighted by the fact and is exasperated because DeAndre Hopkins is going to be gone for the first 6 games of the season, suspended. So Marquise Brown, it's going to be the Marquise Brown show for Kyler Murray. It's a high-scoring offense. They're going to be airing it out. Brown was a wide receiver one last season for the Baltimore Ravens while Lamar Jackson was healthy, while he was healthy. And I think he can continue that with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a better passer than Lamar Jackson was. And at least for the first 6 weeks, the first third of the fantasy season, I think Marquise Brown is a wide receiver one. You get a wide receiver one in the fifth round of your fantasy football draft. I think that's a tremendous value. If you're worried about him once Hopkins returns, okay. You can always try and trade him before that happens. So something to think about there. Now let's move on here to the sixth round. And this might be, pushing it a little bit, but I've got Allen Robinson of the LA Rams per these rankings, he would be going in the 6th round, but I've seen him go in the 5th round. I've seen him go in the 4th round. So keep that in mind. I even wanted to include him in the 5th round here with Marquise Brown. Maybe I should have. But Allen Robinson, I've still been able to get him in the 6th round, but I think his ADP in terms of wide receivers has been going up. I don't have any idea why he's ranked this low. I mean, okay, he had a crap season last year with the Chicago Bears, but the Bears were an absolute joke. Robinson wasn't happy with his contract. Now he got paid. He has the best quarterback that he's ever had in his career in Matthew Stafford. The elbow issue with Stafford doesn't seem to be too serious, so I'm not hitting the panic button on that yet. And I really do think the gap between Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp isn't going to be as big as you might think. And in fact, if there's a wide receiver that I want for the Rams, when you look at the value, it's Allen Robinson 10 times out of 10. I'd rather get him in like the 5th, 6th round than Cooper Kupp in the early 1st round. Just see what Matthew Stafford did for Cooper Kupp. Robinson has been a top 12 wide receiver before with scrubs like Mitch Trubisky and Bortles. He can definitely duplicate that with Matthew Stafford. This is an offense that can absolutely support that type of upside. Now, though, let's move on to the 7th round and continuing to scroll here. We have got JuJu Smith-Schuster, a guy that I have been getting higher and higher on these last couple of weeks. And it boils down to this. I like the offense for the Kansas City Chiefs. Hell, who doesn't? I love the quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. And it's a situation kind of similar to, when JuJu was playing opposite Antonio Brown. Travis Kelce is that kind of alpha weapon for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is a better version of Big Ben, at least at that point in his career. JuJu Smith-Schuster, the reason he's been a disappointment is, he's been hurt the last couple of years, and then Big Ben has been on the decline. And everybody wanted to see from him, what they saw that one season where he exploded. But maybe, we were a little bit ahead of ourselves. So for that reason, I think, again, he won't be a Tyreek Hill replacement, but I think he can very well be a top 15 wide receiver, like a borderline wide receiver 1. If I can get that in the 7th round, and again, per these rankings, even the end of the 7th round, I'm going to take that all day long. Now, let's move on to the 8th round here. I have got 2 names for you yet again. We have got Rashad Penny of the Seattle Seahawks, and this does have something to do, obviously, with the hernia news for Ken Walker, the rookie. But I was higher on Rashad Penny to begin with for the Seattle Seahawks. If Walker doesn't start the season for the Seahawks, then Penny's upside is going to be really, really nice. His ADP might kind of balloon up a couple rounds, but at this point in time, you can get him around this 7th, 8th round range. And a guy that can return like high-end RB2 value is a great steal at this point in time. The thing that worries me the most is the quarterback position for the Seahawks. Hopefully they're not in a situation too often where they have to abandon the run. But if that's not the case, I really do think Rashad Penny can be a great steal for you, especially if you punt it at the running back position early on. Now, the other guy here I want to talk about in the 8th round is Rashad Bateman of the Baltimore Ravens. Again, I think the middle rounds are absolute gold mines for some of these wide receivers. I anticipate Bateman will probably be going a little bit earlier, maybe in the 7th round, something like that. But again, per these rankings, I think Rashad Bateman, without Marquise Brown, is in a great situation. Yes, Mark Andrews is still there, so all the pressure isn't on Bateman, but Bateman never got a fair shake. I've said this before. He was my favorite rookie wide receiver last season after Jamar Chase. Unfortunately, he started off the season hurt, then Lamar got hurt, and it was one of those situations. I think now, being the number 1 wide receiver for the team, Bateman is going to get a lot of opportunities, and he can put together similar stats to what Marquise Brown was doing for Baltimore last year. He's a little bit more physical. He's a little bit bigger. I think that translates better to what Lamar Jackson can do as a passer. So just even more reasons why I like Rashad Bateman this season. Now, moving on to the 9th round, let's talk one Allen Lazard. And again, comes in at the 108 spot, so maybe he belongs in the 10th round, but I'm kind of doing this based on where I'm picking these guys and where I've seen them go more often than not. Allen Lazard, similar to Aaron Jones, I love his upside. Without Devontae Adams, I think he's the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, and that means a lot for an offense led by Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't be shocked if he takes a Jordy Nelson-esque type of leap this season. You get him close to double-digit rounds, that's an absolute steal. The majority of time, you're going to be drafting him on your bench, but the upside that he has is absolutely tremendous. He showed us last season that he was the clear-cut number 2 guy for the Packers. Now without Davante Adams, it's his time to kind of go into that wide receiver 1 role. I'm not worried about these rookies. I'm not worried about, washed up Sammy Watkins or Randall Cobb. Give me Allen Lazard for this Green Bay Packers team. And now let's get to the 10th round, the final round that we're going to kind of cover here, because, we don't want to make this thing too long, but we're going to be talking first, Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders, finally including a quarterback on this list. He's going around right around this point in time, the 10th round. In fact, sometimes even later. Carr is a guy that I am very, very bullish on. I think that he has a chance to be a top 5 quarterback with the addition of Davante Adams, with the growth of Hunter Renfrow last year, with the return of a healthy Darren Waller. I really like this Las Vegas offense, and in the division that they're in versus the Chiefs, versus the Broncos, versus the Chargers, those are going to be high scoring affairs, and there's going to be a lot of offense to go around. I think Carr can be one of the leaders in the entire NFL in terms of passing yards. I'm telling you, book it. He is going to be a top 10 quarterback. One of my favorite sleepers. I said this last year from Matthew Stafford. The guy finished the 6th overall quarterback. I think Derek Carr can absolutely do the same. And then the last name that I want to mention here in the 10th round, is Cole Kmet. He comes in at the number 129 spot, but with the way the tight end position works, there's going to be a run around this point in time in the 10th round, and these guys are going to get drafted. And I really like the upside for Kmet because, simply put, volume is king. And even though the Chicago Bears aren't a good real-life NFL team, that doesn't mean they can't produce successful fantasy weapons. And I think that's what Cole Kmet, I think that's what guys like Darnell Mooney can be. Kmet, after Mooney, is the next best pass catcher for this offense. And that means a lot for the tight end position. Volume for the tight end position can make a mediocre guy into a borderline top 5 tight end. For that reason, I think Cole Kmet, especially without Jimmy Graham now in Chicago, is going to have so many more opportunities utilized in the red zone. He's the number 1 tight end for the Chicago Bears. They invested heavy draft capital on him when they initially got him. So Cole Kmet is a guy that I really, really like. If you ignored the top tight end position to begin with in the later rounds, I would feel comfortable with him as my tight end 1 for the entire season. But with that, we wrap up our breakdown of our best picks by every round for this 2022 fantasy football season. As always, let us hear it in the comment section. Did you agree, disagree? What other names would you include on this list, along with any other questions you guys might have? I'll do my best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. And lastly, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, available for purchase. Everything you can want at great value, details in the description. In the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.